And so what we're doing every day with a 20 plus person sales team is having meetings with these advisors, talking to them about what Bitcoin is, talking to them about where it fits in a portfolio, and sort of laying the groundwork for when that ETF launches for them to adopt it readily. We're seeing real traction. There are a lot of advisors who want to allocate ahead of the Bitcoin ETF.
This content is brought to you by Uphold, which is a great crypto exchange that I've been using for years. In fact, I've been using them since 2018. They have 10 plus million users, 250 plus cryptocurrencies, and they're available in 150 countries. You can also trade precious metals and 37 fiat currencies on this platform, and you can instantly swap between crypto and precious metals and these fiat currencies. So Uphold is a unique platform. If you'd like to learn more about Uphold, please visit the link in the description. Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. With me today is Matt Hougan, who's the Chief Investment Officer at Bitwise Asset Management. Matt, it's great to have you back on.
Thanks for having me. I love being here.
Matt, yesterday, Monday, we're recording this on a Tuesday, but yesterday was a wild day with rumors and fake news of a Bitcoin spot ETF approval. What were your thoughts on that? I saw you tweeted out that you likened this to the Emuluk stock fraud in 2000.
That's right. Yeah. Actually, my very first job out of college, I was working at a high-tech mutual fund. And one of the stocks we owned was Emulux. And a disgruntled employee of a wire business put out a fake press release, and the stock fell dramatically. I think it fell like 60%. And I had flashbacks to that this morning. Of course, it went the other way, right? Bitcoin, this thing that I love, this thing that I'm focused on, popped on the news. But anytime you get this sort of fake news scenario, it's bad. It speaks poor things about the market. I don't think this colored the crypto media in any sort of glory. And I'm glad that it's behind us. It was a crazy morning, not what I needed to wake up to on Monday morning before I'd even had some coffee. So I do think it's a teaser of where we're going, though. One thing you did see was news of a spot Bitcoin ETF approval lifted the markets. And I think that's a reflection that the market hasn't fully accepted yet that we're on path to get a spot Bitcoin ETF, which of course there are no guarantees, but I do think we're on that path. I do think it will be positive for the market, both in the short and long term. And so we got a little taste of that, but I still wish it hadn't happened, Tony. For
sure. Yeah, it was a big time fake out. And I know the market is kind of clamoring, people wanting to get this ETF and, following the SEC not, choosing to appeal the grayscale ruling. Everybody's almost on edge, like just waiting, but we can't have the fake news. It's just, it just muddies the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts on what Larry Fink had to say yesterday? He kind of went to do a bit of maybe damage control. He went on Fox Business talking about the ETF, talking about crypto as a whole, and saying that crypto may be a flight to quality. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I'm going to repeat those words 4,000 times between now and the end of the year. If you had Larry Fink calling Bitcoin a flight to quality asset on your bingo card at the start of the year, you are a better forecaster than I am. It shows you how completely BlackRock has changed its position on Bitcoin. And I think it's honestly reflective of a change underlying the market in the attitudes of traditional finance to this asset class. It is really flipped over the last 6 months. Sort of BlackRock may have been the catalyst, but it's no longer just BlackRock. We're hearing similar words out of other major asset managers, whether that's Fidelity or Franklin Templeton or Wisdom Tree. Or others. We're seeing similar actions out of firms like UBS, expanding efforts to tokenize assets on Ethereum. I think we really are in this transition to mainstreaming of the market. And the world's largest asset manager calling Bitcoin a quality asset, a place people move to when they're worried about the state of the market, is an absolute game changer. It makes me really excited for the year to come. I think we're in a multi-year bull market, and this was just another clarion call that that is true.
Now, with that said, we're still facing some headwinds as it relates to the SEC. Just recently, Kathy Wood said Gary Gensler is the one blocking the Bitcoin spot ETF. The SEC also, as mentioned, chose not to appeal the court ruling in the grayscale situation, and the court said the SEC was arbitrary and capricious. So, what do you think is going to happen? Is the SEC in a position where they're getting caught flat-footed? There's a lot of media attention, and everybody's waiting for this approval. What is your thoughts to say, as far as approval and what the SEC might do next?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a very unusual position in the crypto industry, which is if you look at the facts, we've had multiple commissions reviewing spot Bitcoin ETFs and crypto ETFs, and it's never been approved. Under this commission, we got Bitcoin futures ETFs. We got Ethereum futures ETFs. We got blended Bitcoin and Ethereum futures ETFs. We got crypto equity ETFs. I think that fact pattern puts us on a glide path to a spot Bitcoin ETF. So even though this SEC has been much slower than we want, and even though I think they should have approved a spot Bitcoin ETF years ago, I think we have to give them credit for opening the door to ETFs in crypto land. And I feel a high degree of confidence that it's going to open wider. We are going to get a spot Bitcoin ETF. Of course, there's no guarantee, but I think the SEC is moving in that direction. I bet they're feeling some pressure to do so. And I think the facts on the ground suggest that they should, in fact, push this forward. So I'm very optimistic. I want to give them more credit than the rest of the crypto industry, even if they're not moving as fast as I want. They have moved substantially on the ETF front.
Sure. And Matt, what do you think about this theory? It's something I've been talking about lately. I could be completely off base here, but I almost feel like the approval, I kind of want it to be under quantitative easing versus quantitative tightening when there's more liquidity in the market, when people are not worried about inflation and conflict around the world, and they're more focused on, okay, the economy's in a better spot. I think I want to invest now. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think if you're thinking about the short-term impact, then the timing of it matters, right? We saw, for instance, the Bitcoin futures ETFs launched the height of the 2021 market and really accelerated the price upward, attracted a lot of assets. By comparison, the Ethereum futures ETFs, which just launched, met a very quiet reception. And I think that has to do with the market attitude. So from that short-term perspective, it would be better in a positive market with more excitement. If we get it at the early part of next year, I think we'll be in a good time in the market. But long term, it doesn't matter. Long term, from my perspective, it's completely transformative to the asset class. And if we look back 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, it'll be this step function up. But I think you're absolutely right. The scale of the short-term impact will depend on the market climate.
Now, Bitwise, any updates on your application? I know there was a lot of applicants making updates to their filing. Did you guys have to do anything like that, or are you still just moving along with the application, waiting for the SEC?
Yeah, completely fair question. Unfortunately, the lawyer perched on my shoulder says, I can't comment on our specific application, but on the broader space. But we have seen other companies update their filings. I would read that as progress if I was an outside observer of the market. That is a sign of forward momentum that aligns with the forward momentum we're seeing in other ETF avenues.
Now, in addition to your filing, are there other things that Bitwise is working on in preparation for the Bitcoin halving next year, whether it be accumulating more Bitcoin or another ETF product or anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, it's massive education. So the thing to think about with the Bitcoin ETF, why it matters, is it unlocks this other segment of the market that is essentially has no allocation to crypto, which is the financial advisor marketplace. Now, this is an important market. It's at least twice and maybe 4 times as big as self-directed retail investors. So the people who own crypto now are mostly self-directed retail investors. The financial advisor marketplace controls between 2 and 4x as many assets. And so what we're doing every day with a 20 plus person sales team is having meetings with these advisors, talking to them about what Bitcoin is, talking to them about where it fits in a portfolio, and sort of laying the groundwork for when that ETF launches for them to adopt it readily. We're seeing real traction. There are a lot of advisors who want to allocate ahead of the Bitcoin ETF. And of course, we have products that do that. We have index funds, we have SMAs, we have equity ETFs. And we're seeing a lot of people who want to get in ahead of the wave. But more than anything, we wake up every day and just talk to these people, these next buyers of crypto, about what this is. And we do it relentlessly, and we'll keep doing it right through the launch.
Yeah, I was recently talking to investor Raoul Pal, and I was sharing the story that I have a financial advisor, and for years I've been talking about crypto, and he knows I'm allocated, but they can't touch it, they can't do anything, they can't make money off of it. But now that the news of Bitwise and BlackRock and all these folks, they're like, okay, talk to me more about crypto. They're all their antennas are up now because they know something's around the corner.
That's exactly right. And once that happens, once you have BlackRock and Bitwise and spot ETFs, they can't tell you, I can't touch it, right? And as you know, 50 million Americans own crypto directly. They want their advisors to understand this space. Advisors want to be seen as being on their side. And I think the change you're seeing with your advisor is happening to millions of Americans right now. And to me, that's enormously positive for this space. That's how we get to the next level. It's how we return to new all-time highs. And I think it's tremendously positive.
Now, in the crypto industry and market, we're seeing a lot of TradFi players coming in outside of Bitcoin spot ETF filings. For example, PayPal launches stablecoin. What are your thoughts on the stablecoin market and these different big players like PayPal? Maybe Amazon's around the corner, who knows, to launch a stablecoin? What do you think about these things?
I think the market is dramatically underrated how significant that PayPal launch is. And here's why. You have to remember, stablecoins are politically controversial. Yeah. They still exist in a regulatory gray zone. You could even call them like the third rail of crypto, right? Because people are worried about them pretending to be money market funds. How are they structured? Who can operate with them, et cetera? The fact that PayPal, the largest fintech in the world, thought it was important enough to establish a position here that they were willing to touch that third rail tells you that they see a huge future of stablecoins in the payments space. The fact that they built a product on Ethereum tells you the direction the market is going towards public blockchains. PayPal or stablecoins are a $100 billion market. I think they could be a $1 trillion market overnight if they start to penetrate the payments space. And I think the market didn't fully read what a big statement this was from PayPal. If you've gone, I'll point out another thing. We use stablecoins today mostly between trades at crypto exchanges. But go to the PayPal website. Look what they say in like size 100 font. They say built for payments, right? This is about real world uses. This is not about crypto traders parking cash. This is about disrupting the current payments model. And that's another example of this mainstreaming of crypto that is the defining feature of this bull market. I think it's a really big deal.
Yeah, one of the things I was talking to some family members and people I know who are still skeptics of crypto and don't understand the technology. I posed a question to them. PayPal, you currently use PayPal. They send money. You could send money to different people across the world. Why do you think they created stablecoin? And I just left it at that. And then the light bulb went off for many of them to understand instant settlement and transaction speeds and much more. And I think as these large players start adopting the technology and building with it, I think it's going to click for a lot of people because they have an affinity to the brand or the company. It just breaks down the barrier of, we don't know who uses this stuff. Oh, PayPal uses it.
That is right. Yes, exactly. And it's these companies that see a step ahead that push people to the next level, right? PayPal innovated on payments. They did a fantastic job, but they see where the puck is going. We're not at the end of payment improvements. Stablecoins are the next step, and they were willing to to go there. I think it's a great proof point. And these proof points are just stacking up, right? The largest asset manager calling it a quality asset, PayPal launching a stable coin. At some point it becomes overwhelming, even to your skeptic friends.
For sure. Now you're based in California. Recently, Governor Gavin Newsom passed a crypto regulation bill. Not perfect, but certainly put some guardrails in place to help protect consumers as well as foster innovation. I don't know if you got a chance to, get a gist of what that was about, but any thoughts on California and as well as states kind of leading the federal government right now in regulations?
Yeah, I think when you have a vacuum at the federal level on sensible regulation, the states will fill in, right? We saw that with New York with the bit license, and we're seeing it in California. The goal as an industry is to hope for balanced regulations. I haven't done a full deep dive into the California bill, but it looks like it at least has some elements of balance to it. They're not going to be perfect, but I think we're going to move along. Eventually, we're going to get federal legislation, and that's going to be another big break point. But it's nice to see states step forward. I think if we look back at the impact that the bit license has had on the crypto ecosystem in New York, it's probably on balance positive. There were certainly issues with it, but when it came into the market, everyone said no one will operate in New York. And of course, that proved to be untrue. As long as these regulatory guardrails are reasonable, I think it's fine. And I think we're moving in that direction in California, but I have to dig in more aggressively before I have a full view.
Yeah, and to your point, the key word is balance, right? And it's fostering innovation, protecting consumers. And look, I mean, after what happened last year with Celsius and FTX and so forth, I think we need something in place. While FTX wasn't altogether, about crypto specifically, it was just straight up fraud, right? You still had the likes of Celsius and these guys. So I think, these steps are needed to just put up the guardrails. Regarding Bitwise and what's on the roadmap for you guys for the remainder of 2023 and even 2024, anything else you want to highlight?
Yeah, we're primarily focused on pushing forward, hopefully towards a spot Bitcoin ETF and supporting that launch. But behind the scenes, we have an array of close to 20 products now. And so we're really focused on educating and helping people understand all of the opportunities in crypto. I do have a thesis going forward that we're going to see more differentiation between the performance of different crypto assets as they penetrate deeper into their use cases. So more differentiation of the performance of Bitcoin and Ethereum and competitive layer ones and layer twos and app-based applications. And so I think with that differentiation, you're going to see people want to get beyond Bitcoin into the deeper parts of the crypto market. And we're prepared for that as well. So we're thinking about that from a product perspective. Obviously, we have products that serve that, like the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund. But I think that's a theme that is, if you're playing a game 2 years ahead, that's going to be a big part of what that is.
I don't know if you can share anything on this, but there were many XRP holders who wanted me to ask you if Bitwise was going to do anything regarding XRP, given the ruling in the lawsuit against Ripple, given that it has some level of clarity now that intrinsically it's not a security. Anything you can share there?
Yeah, it is a holding now of the Bitwise 10. So it is the third largest holding at a 3.2% weight. We removed it from the index the day the lawsuit came from the SEC because it injected a fair amount of risk into the market. But the lawsuit went through and there was a ruling. And as you mentioned, the ruling found that it was not a security in most aspects. And so it is back in the index where it belongs, just like it's there, with your pillows. So we're ready. We're right there with you.
Awesome. Matt, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your insights. And we got to have you back on soon because the ETF news seems to be popping up every month now. But thank you so much.
We will do it. Thank you.